Hello, welcome to this video on human capital and education. I'm Dr. Glenn Shepard. I've created a series of videos based on some of the books that I've written, and this one particular video is about an article that appeared in my book Transformation of Human Consciousness by Design. And my wife did a lot of work, Sandra Smith Shepard, on this particular article, a lot of research. And it's available in the book. And it shows a lot of the references and citations and whatnot that backs up the claims making here. Okay, so the problem we face with the idea of human capital is that humans are treated pretty poorly by the government, I guess you could say. They're not investing in people at all. Okay, and so we have schools that I've written about and have videos that are just more like prison places. It's like places with stuck kids to control them and control their minds, and it's the wrong place. So I've been advocating the total changes in the constructive of school, and I have some videos about that, what kind of school system. But we're faced with like jails and mental institutions. They're just over capacity. Matter of fact, the mental institutions are, so full they end up sending them to prison. That's a sad fact. Mental institutions cost more per person. They can cost a couple more 100,000 or more a year, whereas a prison, maybe 50,000 to 100,000 range a person is still pretty. It's more cost effective, and space wise, we end up putting a lot of them in prison. They get turned out, become homeless many times. They have mental problems. They have maybe addictive, alcohol, drugs, and whatnot, and they need help too. We don't put money into these people. And unemployment. That's another problem. And prisons, I think there's something like 2 million people incarcerated in prisons, and that's more than any other country. I mean, we have 5% of the population and 20% of the world's people in prisons. So that's pretty sad that why do we feel like we have to put everybody in prison so much, So the thing is that we are human capital people, just me, you, and everybody else. It's not you don't have to be a owner of a bank or a corporation or anything. This feel important, but capital is assets. It refers to assets, and that could be money, could be equipment, property, could be technology, could be a factory. Things that you have to buy in a business, say, to make your business in the future profitable, right? You invest in those things, and you do in your business. You'll invest in training for your people, so they'll help you make profit. But beyond that, you're focused on your business. Okay. But for us, we are capital that should be used by our government. See, that's the problem. Our government's not using us, the people, at all. They don't act like we're very valuable or much of an asset. But We certainly are, And so the ways that we could invest in human capital, simple, solve some of these problems with. We need much more education. Education. According to research, there's huge improvements when you invest in education. Mental health. Why don't we put more money into that? Again, there's a lot of people really messed up in this country. And it has many factors. Schools are one of the factors, but the whole society with what's going on is another. But the fact is, we need money to be put into these. Like I said, there's people who are being just locked up and juvenile detention centers and deportation centers. They're coming up with those even more. But we need training too, experts who work with people and help them get a better job, So let's put money into training. Anybody doesn't have a job or wants a job, they should be able to get some training, some help to be able to find that job, not just, a little bit of help or here, go there, but, seriously give them a training program to get into that's free and they can get a job. And it's just like food. There needs to be much more food banks. I had another video about, what we could do to help feed America. Why can't we change the world? Video, and that's another article in the book I'm talking about. And so people need daycare. Like there's women who maybe single and they can't afford to work. They have one or two children or whatever, and daycare costs so much they can't hardly afford to work. So they get on welfare, type things so many times. And instead of helping people to improve themselves, to get better jobs, to make more money, we don't do that. Same with health care. They should have universal health care. People shouldn't have to worry about that, okay? If they don't, they can do other things rather than just sit around worrying about all these other huge problems. Well, the return on investment is, you take the cost of a program. Like say you got to set it up, you got a factory to build, you got to do this and that. Well, this you have investment into schools and prisons and training and food programs and whatnot, and housing programs to help people out. But then you have a lot of savings, from those. It's amazing how much, it's talking about the cost of maintaining prisons and mental institutions and detention centers, and the cost is tremendous. If we could reduce that significantly, just think about all the money we're saving. The same true with educational programs, training programs. And that's the way you look at it, is we invest and look at all the return. Okay, and if you look at this article and read it, we've shown that there's sometimes 300, 900% return on investment when it gets into educational and training programs and some of these other things that are helping people out. Okay, that's a huge amount of return on investment, and because it's not really quick return, we can't afford that. We can afford billions on bombs, seriously, but we can't invest on ourselves. So that's what the government should do, in my opinion, and is that we should focus on human capital as the asset and not just money. We're people with money and power and billionaires or whatever, they're not the only thing that government should focus on. Government is represents everyone in the country. That's what a government is. It doesn't represent a religion or a specific person or a type of business, at least it shouldn't, type thing. It should represent everyone. It should focus on everyone. So that's why it should focus its investments on everyone, not, businesses and other things that they're concerned about. So that's what a wise government would do. It's a trickle up theory. Instead of trickle down, how about trickle up? Invest in us. Okay, so I would like you to join me on my YouTube channel, Freedom, Love, and Joy, and then I have a website, freedomloveandjoy.com. There's materials available there. Then I have 2 books, Transformation on Human Consciousness by Design, that I've been talking about, and then another book, Freedom, Love, Joy Movement, both on Amazon.com. Okay? So thank you for listening, and have a great day. Bye.